Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the first full episode of the Cutie Cast. Queer to begin.
Where to begin?
Where to begin?
Where to begin?
My name is Brady Berg. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am a gay that can do math. I dare say.
Oh, good job.
My name is Declan Galley, and I am a gay that can do math as well, sometimes.
What are your pronouns, Declan?
Oh, I use he, him. Oops, sorry.
You're good.
Oh, I'm Bella, pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm a gay that can do it all. Sorry, folks.
Too powerful.
Break the
Sorry,
rules.
there's no room for being humble here.
Hey everyone, my name is Abigail. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her, and I'm a gay that can cook.
Love
Valid.
that. Provide in these trying times for your family. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is a basic topic. We're just going to, basic and not so basic, theoretically. We're just going to talk about broadly what queer means to us and how we see that used in in our lives and in society and in culture. So we can talk first about we know that queer has meant things before it was used to identify people that were non-cisgender and non-heterosexual. And it technically, if you Google it, then it just says that the definition is strange or odd, or as a verb, to ruin or to spoil. So that's what a treat. What a treat that word is. And being used as a pejorative, so an insulting word against queer people in the late 19th century. But it's changed significantly since then. So how do we see it now used in media and otherwise?
My dad was an English major and my mom was an English minor. So growing up, I was in a very you read lots of literature kind of household. So I definitely got a lot of the more historical definition of queer, just in my everyday vocabulary growing up. And so it's definitely been a shift as I discovered and became involved with the queer community to explore the full definition of the word as it relates to us.
For me, the word queer, I guess I never had that, let's learn about the word. It was just school was just that is a naughty word. That's kind of was my relationship with that word. It was just naughty words, you don't say that. And then especially later high school and now freshman year, I've started to kind of figure out what that word actually now means, and I don't know how we reclaim it.
Yeah, when I was younger, it was kind of the same for me as with it was Declan. My parents would use it, or people would use it to be oh, you're an outsider, you don't belong, you're weird, it's gross. And it was a whole process for me to reclaim it as I belong in this community, I am, what's so bad about being queer, what's there's nothing wrong with it, not being fitting in the system of oppression of heteronormativity. Exactly. And other types of system oppressions, that's okay.
Preach.
Why not love yourself for being out of the standard of society? So it's I had to do the whole reclaiming process, and I still kind of am. It's still because sometimes you see it on media, especially historical shows, and they use it, and you're
oh,
I know. Yeah, I know it doesn't. I know it's a little different in this like historical context, but yeah.
Like definitely with like more older media, like even like I love Friends, but like Friends used it a couple of times.
Oh, friends.
Like Friends,
Oh.
I mean, I liked Friends. Okay, I loved Friends when I watched it. I haven't watched it in a while, but
Yeah.
Friends, it's got
The
some.
number of straight friends that I have had recommend that I watch Friends is absolutely ridiculous.
The same people that are like, you should watch Friends, are the people that are like, you should watch The Office, and you're like, yeah, okay. When I see myself on screen, I'll watch it, but like,
Mood.
I'm not down for 10 seasons
Gay
of
jokes.
a heterosexual couple being
Yeah.
called quirky for falling in love with each other. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not into it.
It's like
It's not.
Sorry.
I totally agree with like The Office and all those early 2000s, late 90s shows. It's like
Hmm.
they like the gay jokes and the like just like I don't know, that I feel like was the ultimate height, maybe not, but of the queer, using the word queer in that way. And
Yeah, and especially when they make like ass jokes or something, and it's like, oh, like, ooh, like you're not doing it to like,
Yeah.
ah.
and then when your
Yeah.
heteronormative friends are like, you don't like Friends? That's offensive.
Like, I got news for you, buddy.
Yeah, got news.
Interest. Yeah.
What
Ugh.
about you, Brady? What about you?
Interestingly, I don't think I really encountered the word queer until college. I've like really did not come in like beside like in my life I was like not, no one ever called me it or anything, or I was like, okay, it's fine. But I like really started thinking about the word when I took English 382 last spring, which is affectionately called in the catalog LGBT literature and media. But my professor wanted to call it queer and trans literature and media because, as we like talked a lot in the class, reclaiming the word queer has a lot to do with trying to claim an identity that is not heterosexual and not cisgender, but also not diseased. Because words like homosexual and bisexual and transsexual or transgender were all used to like codify these identities as like disease states when they were first conceived. So they were all like entries in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Psychological Disorders. So using the word queer was a way for a lot of people to be like, okay, I am not what you say is normal, but I am also not wrong because I am not in your category. So I thought that was really interesting, and that's why I like really started to latch on to the term, because I was like, yeah, I support that. I like that queer usage as an argument there.
That is such a fun tidbit. I didn't know that. I love
I
it.
really love that.
That
It's so cool because like I guess I didn't make the connection like that homosexual and like transgender and all those words. I don't know if transgender was in the whatever, but like but that like those words, like when someone says them, like I don't know, I feel like they're weird.
Yeah,
Like
they feel clinical.
they feel clinical. They feel I'm like, oh, that's so clinical, and like I never feel good about like describing those words. So like
Yeah, especially when like your
Of course,
cis het
of course.
friends are saying like, "Oh, like you're homosexual," and you're like, "What?" Like, I know it's not a slur, but like you should not like.
Yeah,
Don't call me that.
that's not what we do
not
now.
okay. Yeah.
Of course, that's not to like say that
Mhm.
any one label or identity is better or less
Mhm.
good or any of that, because you are the only person who can choose which labels are right for you.
Yeah, that's so true, Abigail. Everyone has like a right to reclaim an identity that they want. Just queer was used for people that wasn't comfortable with these words. But like anyone that uses any identity is so valid. I identify as lesbian, not queer, very clearly, because I had to go through so much to like define who I am and see who I am and my sexuality as a part of who I am, that I don't feel the need to like express my sexuality through like fluidity and through like the term queer, because I found lesbian and it is so freeing to me to be a part of like a label and like a group of people that like absolutely love and adore women and other like lesbian identified people. And like it's so freeing because like to finally know who I am and to understand that at a deeper level, it has been like absolutely like eye opening to me. And like I feel like it seemed to other people from when I first was questioning my sexuality, went from bisexual, queer, gay to lesbian. Like that whole process is a part of who I am, and I love labels for me helped me figure out who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So like labels are important for people and not important for people, but it's where you choose you want, like where you want to put yourself on.
It makes me so
And
happy.
it's up to you.
Bella, you
Thanks.
are so pure.
You're
I
so.
adore you.
Thanks.
You're
Thank you. I adore you
inspirational.
too. Yeah. So it's up.
Nice.
Thanks. It's up to each person what they want to use, and they don't have to use anything at all. They don't even have to use queer. They can come up with a new word. It's up to you. Like you are the only one that's in charge of yourself and your label, and that's got to be respected and loved, because each person, there's no one life of a queer person. There's no like one idea of what queer is, and we have to like acknowledge that and like see the intersectionality of people.
Yeah.
And then like also like labels often do like shift and change over time. Like like when I first came out, I first identified as bi, and then I moved on to using the label pan, and that one stuck for a really long time. And lately I've kind of been questioning it a lot, and I think that I'm definitely fall both under the pan umbrella and the ace umbrella. And like I'm just like, okay, cool. And I like queer as well,
Valid.
just because like that like allows me like the wiggle room to like have all these different labels and still have them all feel comfortable for me at the same time.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Language is powerful, y'all.
And like.
It is powerful.
Yeah. I don't know. I was gonna say something.
Cool.
Anyways, it's Lesbian Visibility on the 26th, so
Woo,
shout out to me.
We see you.
We see you.
You're alive.
Thank you. I will be posting a lot on that day,
You're visible.
so be ready for
I'll
that.
be ready. I'll have my Instagram at the ready.
Thank you.
I really like the term queer just because it's kind of like doesn't have really a set definition for what types of attraction can and cannot be queer. And as a perpetually questioning non-binary, that is such a good thing.
It's gold. It's like
I was reading this article and research paper where they were researching like college women and like women identified non-binary folks, when they go to college, how like the term queer is a lot more accepting because they feel more like they're able to be more sexually fluid, and it's just about their desire, not about like the gender, and like they're allowed to like express themselves without labeling themselves. I thought like a lot of college women, once they like enter like more academic fields and activist fields, they tend to lean more towards queer, which I thought was really interesting.
That's
a
really
really interesting article.
Yeah. I think the flexibility of the word is one of like its biggest calling points to me too. I was like, well, how do I like? I was trying to like pin myself down percentage wise on like the scale of like homosexuality to heterosexuality, and I was like, this ain't it. This is not what I want to be doing with my life. I'm just queer. I'm just something else. And that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna go
There
with.
needs to be new quizzes for like preteens to look up like, are you queer instead of are you like am
Yeah.
I gay? You know?
Maybe we should create one. We could do that.
Yeah, that's
Can
our
you
next
drive?
project for the next
Can you
recording
do math?
session.
Can you? What's the last one? Oh, can you spell?
Can you
I can't spell.
It's also, can you do astrology? Can you
I can
cook?
Oh, true.
cook, but I
Yeah.
can't do astrology.
No. All I know is that I'm a Cancer and that I cry.
I don't.
Valid.
I don't know much about astrology. I just know that I'm a zodiac, and if you do like the birth chart thing, like the first 5 things are all zodiac. And when I showed that to someone who did know astrology, they asked me if I was okay.
Okay. Let's take a short break to do some news updates, and then we'll come back for our second session of Queer Talk. We have a newsletter. All the cross-cultural centers at the Cal Poly, at the Cal Poly, I don't know why I said that, have a newsletter. You can subscribe at culture.calpoly.edu by scrolling to the bottom of the page and clicking on newsletter.
We also wanted to shout out our social media. We have Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, which you can follow Instagram at Cal Poly Pride Center and Twitter and Snapchat at CP Pride Center. And we also, you can watch the podcast with video of our lovely, lovely faces on YouTube.
We wanted to shout out our queers. We're doing this series called Queers in Quarantine throughout the rest of the spring quarter to keep us all engaged. So our upcoming Queers in Quarantine events. Wait, I have the page.
Here, I got it. On May 1st, we have a queer movie night that Declan is hosting. On May 8th, there's a Steven Universe watch party that Bella is hosting. That's me. On May 15th, there's a queer trivia night that I'm not sure who is hosting yet, but we'll find out. May 22nd, there's a movie screening, still to be decided. Then May 24th, there's Pans in the Kitchen with Abigail.
In honor of Pansexual and Panromantic Visibility Day, we'll be doing simple allergen-free recipes.
Love it.
We also wanted to make sure you all know that there are transcripts for this podcast available, also at culture.calpoly.edu. Look under the Pride section for podcasts.
Or you can use the link bit.ly/cutiecast to take you right there. So, back to talking about queer. What are some complexities that we need to consider when we're using it?
One thing that I think about a lot is it just feels to me like there's kind of a different connotation when a straight cisgender person uses the word queer to describe our community than when we use it. And I don't know how I would reconcile that. But I don't know. Do you all feel that? Like that?
There's also like the historical influence where people like cishet people used it as an insult and like
exactly
used it in the same connotation of the F slur, and like it's kind of hot. Like, yeah, I get what you mean. It's definitely a different feeling because when like queers use it, we're like, yeah, go queers, yeah, woo. And then when like they're like, oh yeah, I'm like studying queers and queer studies, it's like,
yeah.
Oh, like what do you mean? You know?
Yeah, like on the one hand, like it does kind of carry like more of a history and connotations when a straight cisgender person says it. But on the other hand, as we reclaim this word, its use is steadily growing to the point where at what point does it become unreasonable to ask people not to use this word?
To me, I think it's like, I don't know if appropriate, but like I'm very much, I don't like it when people like say the word like queers or like use it as a label, an ascribed label to like ascribe it to people, like an individual. But like when
it has to do with like the power of the person that's saying it in terms of the
but like
people that they're referencing.
Or when you're just being like, oh, I'm in a queer studies class and I'm learning about the queer community in general. And less of, because like the history of that word has been use it as an insult to a singular person usually.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know. You definitely got to make sure that everyone's comfortable with it, especially if you're a cishet, and how you can you should be able to always willingly like talk about how you can better navigate a space and navigate like your language to like better like make more people comfortable. Like if someone a queer person calls me queer, I'm like I'm down, like it's okay, it's all good. But when um like a cis het person calls me queer, I'm like that's not my label. Don't give me that label. Like you can't. You're putting your opinion and influence onto like someone else that might
It's
not want
definitely
Mhm.
that,
like a
you know?
personal choice thing.
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of people that, like,
Mm.
especially in the older non-cishet community, there are a lot of people that have like very traumatic associations with the word queer, and figuring out a way that we can both reclaim that word in like into modern usage, while also be conscious of the fact that like it's very possible that the word queer is triggering to a lot of people in our community, is a really interesting and challenging um, problem
I
to try and overcome.
Also like when we reclaim the word, how are we reclaiming it? Because sometimes I see like straight people using queer to like um talk about their heteronormative relationship, and how do we
Yeah,
like like they're like because the word queer was like anything that was not like missionary sex and like
uh-huh.
heteronormative,
Like
like
Yeah.
exactly
heterosexuality,
in
like man, woman, yeah, feminine woman in the household, like masculine man, like working. So like people are now using that term to like talk about like oh like my relationship is queer because it is like it's an interracial relationship or like it's of two different religions or like a whole bunch of different things. How do we like you know like where is that term, like where is it going, and like
Very
how
interesting.
are we using it?
mm,
Because of its history of being used to target the LGBTQ plus community specifically, it makes the most sense as we reclaim it that it would also pretty much just apply to the LGBTQ plus community because it still does carry that history and those connotations. So, I don't know.
I think the agency in reclaiming it belongs to the people that were oppressed by the word. So as people that were labeled as queer, we can choose to grab onto that label and flip it around and use it however we want to. Um, but if you weren't necessarily targeted by the word, then trying to appropriate it is
Yeah.
stepping outside of
Problematic.
your bounds.
Like, yes, breaking through other oppressive boundaries in our society is an amazing thing, but don't take a word that is specifically used in these ways and by these people and take it.
Yeah, and that goes for any word, kind of definitely by any marginalized community that, and we can think of them all. It's like
Specifically for the word like dyke has been used against me and like other lesbians, and that word is only allowed to be reclaimed by
Mm.
lesbians because it was only used against lesbians or vulva, I guess, but like specifically lesbians that are only in women that love women relationships and are not like bound by heteronormativity. Like
yours.
you can only reclaim a word that is a part of you and a part of your label and a part of how you identify. So like queers can only
Yeah.
take upon queer as their own if they want to, and
Yeah.
like the F slur, dyke, like those are only allowed for like specific groups, and they can only be reclaimed like if even like another fellow LGBTQ person calls me a dyke, I'd be offended because
Mm.
that's still a slur coming out of their mouth because it's a word that's only been affected to like my community, like my group of
That
people.
was really well said. And also, this is so off topic, but I just noticed
Thank
your
you.
shirt, and it is beautiful, and I love it.
From Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's wrap up our discussion on queer by talking just briefly about this thing called queer theory. Like, what even do we mean when we say queer theory or queer studies?
My
Do
time.
it, Ben. Go. Teach us
Feel
everything.
free to like add in whatever, but queer theory is like the definition is basically impossible because it encompasses all of like queer perspectives and like queering different ideas and types of media. But queer theory is like political action and theory. It's a way to like move beyond systems of oppression and like view things in a queer perspective, if that makes sense. It's not just about studying like sexuality or gender. It's about how queer people and LGBTQ people, trans people, etc., can go across heteronormative bounds and across systems of oppression and continue to fight for their rights, kind of. But yeah, it's like queer theory is like shared experiences and how you navigate an identity and the world while being a part of an identity.
Thank you.
I
Feel
Yeah.
free to
I
add
love
more
that.
because I don't know if that was enough.
That was a very good explanation.
Okay.
I think you used the word queering in your explanation. You used it as a verb, which is something that not everyone may have heard before. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, queering is using a queer perspective to change what would normally be like normative or like cis het or anything that is a part of a system of oppression and like changing it to how queer people would see it. Like a very like widely known example is like Mulan and how like that's kind of a cis het story for a lot of people, but like LGBTQ people, especially Asian LGBTQ people, have queered it to see as like a story of their own, like of their own people. So it's how we change things to kind of see it in our perspective. And it's also like a lot of things have queer underlining like subtext, but it's hard to see it if you are not looking for it. So queering is a way to like change it for people to see that actual like queer subtext.
Queering Mulan is my favorite weekend activity. You can listen to us, find all the places that you can listen to us, and watch us and read our transcripts and stuff at bit.ly/QDcast.
Yeah.
May is APIDA History and Heritage Month, so we're almost certainly going to be talking about Asians, queer people, and trans people that identify with the Asian label and variants thereof in the future. So if you want to suggest a topic for us to discuss, you can email us at pride@calpoly.edu. And otherwise, we will talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Catch you later, guys, gals, and non-binary pals.